Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at what might just be the absolute next massive leap in technology. We're talking about a brand new frontier, where the raw natural power of biology actually meets the structured logic of computing. We're exploring organoid intelligence, or OI, and we're going to unpack exactly how biological systems are being integrated into the very future of computation. It's truly fascinating stuff.
I want you to stop and just think about this for a second, especially if you're out there studying engineering, biotechnology, or medicine. Imagine a world where the traditional, rigid silicon processors inside our computers are actually replaced by living, breathing cells. I mean, what if the literal building blocks of the human brain were harnessed to power the next generation of artificial intelligence? I know, it sounds straight out of a science fiction movie, right? But it's a rapidly emerging reality in labs all over the world right now. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our cognitive roadmap for today. First, an intro to OI. Second, we'll look at how these biocomputers actually work. Third, it's AI versus biological computing. Fourth, applications and challenges. And finally, number 5, Devi automation solutions.
All right, Section 1, Intro to OI and Biological Computing. So in simple terms, organoid intelligence is a completely new technological discipline. It utilizes a living neural network to perform what we call biological computing. Instead of relying on traditional silicon processors or your standard microchips, it actively bridges artificial intelligence and actual biology. And honestly, this is exactly why the entire scientific world is buzzing right now. It represents a fundamental shift in how we process information. We're moving from just artificial simulations of thinking to utilizing actual living networks that naturally process data. So the crucial point is understanding how we actually get these living networks. It all starts with something called a brain organoid. A brain organoid is essentially a 3D lab-grown cluster of brain cells developed entirely from stem cells. Because stem cells are pluripotent, meaning they can turn into almost anything, researchers can guide them under the right lab conditions. They differentiate and develop into neurons that mimic natural neural functions. They grow, they connect, and they form this microscopic living neural web right there in the lab.
Moving on to Section 2, how biocomputers work. Let's look at the mechanics.
Let's move to and see how this builds across the biological computing pipeline. Step 1, we start with those basic stem cells. Step 2, those are carefully grown into that 3D brain organoid we just talked about. Step 3, and this is where the magic really happens. Researchers stimulate the organoid using electrical signals. They usually do this through microelectrode arrays that physically interface with a living tissue. Step 4, those signals are fed into a computer interface and interpreted using machine learning algorithms. And finally, Step 5. The living organoid processes this information, achieving actual learning and producing a response. The biological cells and the machine are literally communicating with each other.
Which brings us to Section 3, AI versus biological computing, the head-to-head matchup.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive advantages OI brings to the table. Think about traditional AI. It requires massive servers and extremely high power consumption. We are talking entire megawatts of electricity just to run large models. But living cells, they operate on mere fractions of a watt. When it comes to learning ability, traditional AI needs mountains of training data, whereas OI achieves fast, natural learning. Where AI hits pre-programmed limits in adaptability, OI is highly adaptable. And finally, traditional AI only simulates neural activity in its code, while in OI, that activity is 100% natural. To elaborate on this just a bit, the speed and efficiency of biological computing could theoretically outpace our current machine learning models, precisely because of how biology naturally evolved. The human brain is just incredibly efficient. I mean, it doesn't need a cooling tower or a massive power grid to function, right? By leveraging this biological advantage, OI entirely bypasses those massive electricity and data bottlenecks that currently limit AI, opening up entirely new, hyper-efficient research frontiers.
All right, let's look at Section 4, applications and challenges, the real-world impact.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer breadth of fields OI is going to revolutionize. In the medical space, having living human brain models allows for unprecedented breakthroughs in drug discovery. It lets us directly study debilitating conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease on actual human tissue. That's vastly more accurate than traditional animal models that just can't fully capture complex human cognitive diseases.
And while beyond medicine, this human brain-inspired computing will push the boundaries of robotics, advanced AI research, and smart computing. This is literally forming the absolute bedrock of Industry 5.0.
However, as with any pioneering science, there are definitely significant hurdles researchers have to navigate. Moving forward, the scientific community faces complex ethical issues regarding the use of human cells in computing and exactly how we draw the lines around biological systems. There are also current research limitations and extremely high costs associated with maintaining these living organoids in a lab setting. Plus, there are major technical challenges in seamlessly translating biological signals to machine code, alongside necessary safety concerns that must be strictly managed as this technology develops.
And finally, Section 5, deviautomationsolutions, our sponsor for today. So while Organoid Intelligence and biocomputers represent the incredible future of Industry 5.0, the foundation for that future is actually being built today through advanced industrial automation. Devi Automation Solutions is a premier provider of extensive industrial tech services. They're absolute experts in everything from PLC programming, HMI and SCADA, to VFD systems. They are also leading the charge right now in artificial intelligence, industrial IoT, smart agriculture, home automation, and solar solutions. Furthermore, they provide essential technical training for the next generation of engineers. If you're looking to optimize your industrial systems, you can reach out to them directly at deviautomationsolutions@gmail.com.
Which leaves us with this pretty crucial question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. As we move from traditional silicon all the way to living biocomputers, how will you prepare for the transition to Industry 5.0? The convergence of biology and technology is basically inevitable at this point. To keep learning and to make sure you stay ahead of the curve, make sure to subscribe to the Devi Automation Solutions YouTube channel for more deep dives into AI and emerging technology. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep exploring.